Hey guys, I'm Georgia and today I have a bit of an obscene book haul for you. Like, I literally have bought so many books that I'm now looking at the stack of books in front of me and questioning what I'm doing with my life. Like, literally a whole box of books stacked up. I think there's 19 in here, which sounds frivolous and excessive, I know. But I have good reason. I went to a place in Hemel Hempstead called 66 Books, which I saw on TikTok. It's basically a book warehouse where everything is 70% off. So even though I bought all of these books, I think the guy said to me it was £186 worth of books. I paid 50 quid for this, or like £52, around the £50 mark I paid for all of these books, which I think is a fantastic bargain. I went a little bit crazy because I knew I wasn't going to get an opportunity to go back there anytime soon, and I was like, I'm just going to buy them now because otherwise I'm going to keep buying books on Amazon or in Waterstones and I'm going to spend like triple the amount of money. So I might as well just get what I want to get now, and I'm going to read all these throughout the rest of the year. I say that with really good intentions, like I'm not going to continue buying books on Amazon and in Waterstones as well. I probably will, but you know, the thought is there. I know a lot of you would have seen 66 Books on Book Talk, and if you want to go, if you live nearby, I highly recommend it. Like I said, it's in Hemel Hempstead, so we travelled about 50 minutes I think, which wasn't too bad. Went on a Sunday morning, got there about 9:30, queued for about 40 minutes to get in, which I didn't think was too bad, the weather was fine. And then we spent about 2 hours in there, and literally there are just shelves and shelves and shelves of books as far as the eye can see. There's 2 whole floors. It took hours to go through it all. It's not very well organised. There's kind of like brief sections. There's like the kids section, but like YA is like mixed in with the kids stuff. And then there's like biographies, and then there's like history, and there's just adult books. Rows and rows and rows of adult books. Nothing is in genres. You've just got to look at everything and hope you find stuff you like. And actually I really like doing that because I looked at books I wouldn't usually have picked up, which is really exciting. And I'm going to stop rambling. Let me show you all the books I bought. There's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just going to pick books out of my box as they come, starting with The Girl Before by J.P. Delaney. And also actually I bought The Perfect Wife by J.P. Delaney as well. I am sure I've read a J.P. Delaney book before. I'm sure I have, but I can't tell you what it is. Let's see if there's like a list. Is there a list of his books? I'm going to look on Goodreads. 2 seconds. Maybe not. Anyway, these are like psychological thriller type books, and you'll know that I am a big fan of a psychological thriller. Just really easy reading, you know. These are the kind of books I go for when I don't want anything too heavy, which is funny because they usually are quite heavy, but like they're very much not based in like reality generally, which I quite like. Let me read you the blurbs. Jane stumbles on the rental opportunity of a lifetime, the chance to live in an ultra-minimalist house designed by an enigmatic architect on condition she abides by a list of exacting rules. But when she discovers the previous tenant Emma met mysterious death there, Jane starts to wonder if her own story will be a rerun of The Girl Before. Intriguing. It's compared to Girl on the Train on the back of this. There, I didn't really like Girl on the Train, but we'll see. Apparently this was his debut novel, so interesting. And then this one, The Perfect Wife. Abby wakes up in a hospital bed with no memory of how she got there. By her side is her husband Tim, the driven British founder of one of the world's most groundbreaking tech companies. They met when she joined his startup as an artist in residence, their marriage at a Silicon Valley fairy tale. Why do I feel like I've read this before? Is this just really similar to the book I've already read, or have I read this one? Back to Goodreads. No, I haven't. I'm thinking of another book called The Other You by J.S. Monroe. But like, look how similar that cover vibe is to that. That's what I think. And also I think the story sounds really similar. And The Other You is about somebody living in a very fancy house in Cornwall with like a dodgy guy. And this sounds like a dodgy guy in a similar kind of vibe. We'll see. These are the kind of books that they're not groundbreaking. They're not like 5-star literature award-winning books. They're just easy to read, and I have quite a few of them actually. The next one is The Perfect Girlfriend by Karen Hamilton. This one sounds like a twist on the regular psychological thriller. So this is about a couple called Juliet and Nate, and they were a couple. They were going out until Nate broke up with Juliet 6 months ago. But Juliet has a plan to win him back, and she'll make sure that no one stops her from getting exactly what she wants. True love hurts, but Juliet knows it's worth all the pain. And I thought that sounded really interesting. Like, what's gonna happen? I don't know. Book hauls are weird. I'm realising as I'm filming this, I want to tell you about the books, but I haven't read the books. All I can tell you is like, I bought this, I'm gonna read it. I'll tell you what it's like at one point, but doesn't it sound interesting? Hopefully you still watch this and find it good. Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. Again, this is what I loved about this warehouse. There are so many books that I'd never heard of, and I picked them up and just read the blurb and thought, oh, that sounds really interesting. And others that I saw and I was like, oh my god, I've wanted to read that for ages, let's get it. You can't go in there with any sort of list. Like, you can't have a list at all because they don't really have any of like the newest bestsellers. They don't have anything that would be on like the Waterstones front tables right now. But they have stuff. They just have stuff. They have everything. They have so many interesting stuff. This is Sharp Objects. I loved Gone Girl. Gone Girl is one of my favourite books. And it's always one of those books I never think to tell people is one of my favourite books. But every time I think about that reading experience, I'm just like, that was so good. Like, the things I would do to read Gone Girl for the first time. Sharp Objects, I know, doesn't quite have the hype around it that Gone Girl had. But I really like Gillian Flynn's writing, so I'm hoping I like this one just as much. I'm sure a lot of you have already read this, but this is fresh from a brief stay at a psych hospital. Reporter Camille Preker faces a troubling assignment. She must return to her tiny hometown to cover the murders of 2 preteen girls. For years, Camille has hardly spoken to her neurotic, hypochondriac mother or the half-sister she barely knows. So basically she's like going home, and I assume things transpire, as they often do in books. Please do tell me if you've read any of these and you really like them, but don't tell me if you've read them and you didn't like them, because then I'll get it in my head and then I'll find myself disliking a book because I'm very easily swayed. I'm like very easily convinced. So don't tell me if any of these are awful, because I want to discover that for myself. Next up we have Find Me by Andre Asserman. Yeah, this is a sequel to Call Me By Your Name, which is so exciting. You all know how much I love Call Me By Your Name. Call Me By Your Name is the gay love story between Oliver and Elio. Oliver travels to Elio's like family home in Italy or France? I think it's Italy. And they kind of had this like love story over the summer, and that book just left me wanting more. It was incredible. It was just such a good reading experience. I loved Andre Asserman's writing. It's just so like delicate, his writing, if that makes sense. I didn't turn this on to silent. Let's turn that off. Just the way that Andre Asserman uses language to like paint a picture of like the surroundings and the environment and the leaf falling off of that tree and this peach. If you've read Call Me By Your Name, you'll know the peach. It's just such deliberate writing, and I enjoyed reading it so much. I don't often really enjoy the really like fancy books that are really like detailed. I just want to get to like the crux of a story, if you get what I mean. But there's something about the way this man writes. It's just so beautiful. And you can tell I'm not an English literature student, can't you? Like, I'm not a pro, I just like books. But yeah, I'm very excited to read this. Very, very excited. Nervous though, because I'm hoping he doesn't ruin the love story that I loved so much. But we'll see. I had never heard of this book or this author, but I was so drawn in by the cover of this. Like, look how beautiful this is. Like, at the back. Amazing. There are so many books in here which I never would have picked up, but the covers like drew me in. Like, when you're looking at like a million books on these shelves, it's got to have like a snazzy cover, and so many of these are that. But this is The Vanishing Act of Esme Lennox by Maggie O'Farrell. This is set in Edinburgh in the 1930s. The Lennox family is having trouble with its youngest daughter. Esme is outspoken, unconventional, and repeatedly embarrasses them in polite society. Something will have to be done. Years later, a young woman named Iris Lockhart receives a letter informing her that she has a great aunt in a psychiatric unit who is about to be released. So this is about Iris discovering her great aunt, Esme, I assume, and I don't think it's a mystery per se. Maybe there's going to be like some unravelling of how things ended up the way they did, but I think it's just a look at how things could have been done differently. What could Esme have done to warrant a lifetime in an institution, and how is it possible for a person to be so completely erased from a family history? I'm so excited to read this one. Did You See Melody by Sophie Hannah? I love Sophie Hannah's writing. She has got so many books. Like, this woman must just be writing constantly 24/7 and never stops because she has so many books. I read a fair few of them, but obviously I haven't read this one. I actually had at one point like 5 or 6 Sophie Hannah books in my basket and I had to like stop and be like, no, just get one. Just get one Sophie Hannah book. And this is the one that I narrowed down from the many. So this is a story of a woman called Cara Burrows who abandons her home and family and escapes to a spa resort. Late at night, exhausted and desperate, she lets herself into a hotel room and is shocked to find it already occupied by a man and a teenage girl. A simple mistake on the part of the hotel receptionist, but Cara's fear intensifies when she works out that the girl she saw alive and well in the hotel room is someone she can't possibly have seen, the most famous murder victim in the country, Melody Chapper, whose parents are serving life sentences for her murder. If that doesn't draw you in, I don't know what will. I am so intrigued by this. I want to read this straight away. I actually might make this the first one I read because I just want to know. I've just got to know. I've got 2 books by Ellie Griffiths. I find that surname really hard to say. Griffiths. I've got 2 books by her. So I've actually already read the first book in this series. This is about a forensic archaeologist called Dr. Ruth Galloway. It's kind of another twist on this whole like thriller, psychological, murder, mystery, crime kind of book. But it's historical as well because she's a forensic archaeologist. And the first book starts with like, I think I've read the first book in the series and a couple of the later ones as well. Because I feel like I've read more than one in this series. But this is the second and third. I know, I googled it intensively. But basically, there's a skeleton found and Ruth Galloway's got to figure out if it's historical or if it's fresh. And if it's fresh, what happened? And if it's historical, what happened? And it's really interesting. So I have the Giannis Stone, which I think is the second one, and the House at Sea's End, which I think is the third one. I don't know why I'm suddenly doubting myself that I've read these ones, but it was so many years ago that I don't think I have. I had a quick flick through, and I checked my Goodreads and I haven't marked that I've read these ones, and I'm very good at my Goodreads, so if I haven't put that I've read them, I don't think I have. But if I have, I'm going to be very mad at myself because I literally had the whole series. I had every single one of these books and these are the 2 I got, so we'll see. If you're into like mystery, thriller, crime books but are also super into history, those books. I'm telling you, those books. Then I picked up The Power by Naomi Alderman. This book has been in my Goodreads to read list for so long. So when I saw this, it was literally like a top shelf and I had to go around and like find a step stool that I could like stand on to reach it because I wasn't going to ask somebody because I don't talk to strangers. So I like went to such effort to get this book in my basket. Honestly, it sounds fascinating. All over the world, women are discovering they have the power. With a flick of the fingers, they can inflict terrible pain, even death. Suddenly, every man on the planet finds they've lost control. The day of the girls has arrived, but where will it end? Doesn't that sound so good? I love a dystopian novel. I love sort of a commentary on like sexism and misogyny, and I'm so excited to read this. There are mixed reviews online, I'm not gonna lie, but I want to decide for myself. I'm very intrigued. Another book I was so drawn to because of this beautiful cover, like those colours are amazing. This is Dolores by Lauren Amy Curtis. I think this is actually her like debut novel, which I'm really excited about. The back of it says, Dolores reads the way a first novel should, short, lyrical, intense and with adventurous ambition. I'm so intrigued by this. Like, it is short. Sometimes all you need is a short book. Like, if you're in a reading slump, you just need a short book to like kickstart you back into the like swing of things. This is, how many pages is this? Like literally 130 pages. I will probably save this until I'm like struggling a little bit. So this is the story of a girl who is taken in by a convent. The nuns name her Dolores. And as she's like adjusting to her new life, she's sort of figuring out who she is and her sensuality. Apparently it's a very sensual book, according to the comments on the back. Turns out she's actually pregnant in a convent. Sounds very intriguing. Very intriguing. I want to read this. Should I read this now? I could probably read this in the evening. But should I save it? I don't know. Then we have Love Murder by Saul Black. I was so excited when I saw this one on the shelf. If you've ever listened to me talk about books for more than like 3 minutes, I will have told you about The Killing Lessons by Saul Black, which I always recommend as like the top psychological thriller crime fiction book you can read. It is so good. The twists and turns, amazing. This is the part 2. I don't actually know if there's a part 3, but it's with the same detective Valerie Hart. And I'm just so excited to read this. Again, it's been on my Goodreads list for ages. I've been wanting to buy it for ages. There's just always other books on the list, you know? And I was just so excited when I saw this. So this is A Body Has Been Found, a woman brutally murdered. Police find a note at the crime scene addressed to homicide detective Valerie Hart. Valerie doesn't know the victim, but the note points in a deeply disturbing direction, to a maximum security prison where a woman called Catherine Glass is awaiting execution for a series of gruesome killings. And Valerie was the cop who put her there. I can't wait to read this one. I'm nervous because if it's not as good as Killing Lessons, is it going to like taint my love of Killing Lessons? Also, I was really annoyed at myself because I didn't realise I picked up one with a scratch on the front. I think a lot of books that end up in the warehouse are either ones that like haven't sold. Loads and loads of the books had stickers that I know WH Smith like 3 for 2 stickers. So I think a lot of them just come from like stores where they haven't sold, or if they're slightly damaged, and this one is slightly damaged and I didn't realise and I should have picked up another one. But you know what, it's just one of those things, once you notice it you can't unnotice it. Can you even see it in the camera? Can you? I don't know. But anyway, excited to read this one. I'm excited to read them all. I feel like I've said that about every single book, otherwise I wouldn't have bought them. Don't know how this one got in here because this is not part of the haul. This is just the book I'm reading right now. I must have picked it up off my bedside table by accident. This is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I'm about 100 pages in. I am not enjoying it all too much. A bit weird. Don't really like the writing style, but I'm going to persevere. Anyway, I'm sure you'll hear about this one in a video coming soon. I don't know what it was that drew me to this book. This was like right in like the back corner of a shelf. There was only like 3 of them there. I'd never heard of it. It's called The House of Impossible Beauties by Joseph Cassara. I don't know why. It just caught my eye. I was like, it's bright. I'm like a moth to a flame. Picked up. It is literally about the drag scene, the ball scene in New York City in 1980. And obviously I'm queer. I'm super into like learning about queer history and the ball scene in Harlem and like all of this stuff. And that's what this is about. I picked up and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. She's a chonker as well. Like, this is going to take me a while to get through. If you've ever seen Paris is Burning, you might recognise some of the names that are on this blurb. So it reads, New York City, 1980. Nowhere is the city's glamour and energy better reflected than the burgeoning Harlem ball scene. Angel, just 17 years old and burnt by her traumatic past, she wants to create a family for those without. Hector, when Angel falls in love with him, the two decide to set up the House of Extravaganza, the first ever all-Latino house on the ball circuit. The Extravaganzas, they're joined by Venus, Juanito and Daniel, all with their own devastating stories to tell, each determined to survive. I just know it's going to be absolutely heartbreaking. I know it's probably going to make me sob, but like, what are the chances that I would be drawn to this book? And there were barely any of them, hidden away in a corner. And it's about queer history. It's like a fictionalised version of queer history. And I just know I'm going to love it. I really hope I love it. If I don't, I'm going to be really upset. But even if I don't like the style, I know I'm going to find like the content really interesting. Speaking of, actually, this next one is Las Beauty Queens by Ivan Mona Lisa Ojeda. I really hope I'm pronouncing his name right. On the front, that's Pearl Liaison. That's why I was drawn to it. This is a drag queen who was on Drag Race, but is also just like an incredible queen. This is about a group of trans Latinx immigrant friends who walk the streets of New York, smoke crystal meth and compete in beauty contests, look for clients in their impossibly high heels and fall prey to increasingly cruel immigration policies. Drawing from his/her own perspective as a trans performer, sex worker and undocumented immigrant, acclaimed Chilean writer Ivan Mona Lisa Ojeda shines a light on a group of friends trying to survive the dark side of the American dream. It's set in New York, it's about drag, it's about queer culture, sounds like it's quite dark as well, must cover some pretty heavy topics. I haven't ever heard of this, I haven't heard anything about it, but when I saw it, I knew that I just had to read this. Like, again, even if I'm not a fan of the writing of this, I just know I'm going to learn so much by reading it, and yeah. Oh my god, I lied. I do have 2 Sophie Hannah books. I am sure that I narrowed it down to just one, but clearly shopping Georgia just can't be stopped. This is Haven't They Grown by Sophie Hannah. This sounds so intriguing actually. I think I do remember choosing to keep this one as well. I'm saying that now I'm reading the blurb. This is the story of 2 children, Thomas and Emily, who died or disappeared. I'm not entirely sure. Something happened 12 years ago when they were 5 and 3. Today they still look exactly the same as they did when they were 5 and 3. How is this possible? I don't know, but I guess I'm gonna find out. This next one I regretted buying as soon as I bought it. I literally saw the guy like pick it up. They don't have like scanners and stuff, but they just sort of look at it and figure out the price in their heads. It's all very smart. As soon as the guy picked this one up out of my basket, I was like, oh, I don't actually think I want that book. But I'm too polite to be like, sorry, no, not that one, because it would have messed up all his maths and I wasn't about to do that. This is What Lies Buried by Kerry Danes. Now I'm sure this is a really good book. This is a forensic psychologist's true story of madness, the bad and the misunderstood. And it basically follows Kerry Danes, who's a leading forensic psychologist, and it's her talking about her career and the crazy things that she's dealt with over the years, the like biggest criminals and just the most disturbing mental cases. I have only ever finished one non-fiction book that I'm aware of, that I can think of in this moment, and that's Unnatural Causes by Dr. Richard Shepherd. The story of a forensic, not psychologist, not forensic, what's his job? Pathologist. He's a pathologist. That book was so interesting, and it's the only non-fiction book I've ever been able to finish, and I'm sure this book will be interesting, but I need like a storyline, you know? I need a storyline to get through a book. I need some like character progression, and that's what non-fiction books usually lack. I'll give this a go, like, don't get me wrong, I will try and read it. Maybe she's a really good writer, maybe it's really, really interesting. I don't know. Premise, intriguing, practicality, maybe not. Devotion by Madeline Stevens. This was like a panic pick-up towards the end. Like, we were all getting like a little bit antsy. We just wanted to go, wanted to pay, wanted to like get a McDonald's and then get home. And I saw this one, I didn't have much time to think about it, so I just put it in my basket. It looks gay, is why I bought it. It's a bit sapphic. That's it. That's all I have for you. I like was desperately trying to like Google and like find out if it's a sapphic novel. I didn't have any signal. This was in the downstairs bit. Couldn't get any signal. Don't know. But hear me out. This blurb. Ella is 26, lonely, hungry and far from home. Lonnie is also 26, rich, talented and beautiful, with a husband and son to match. Their fates intertwine the day Ella is hired as the family's nanny. She finds herself mesmerised by Lonnie's girlish affection and disregard for the normal boundaries of friendship and marriage, but soon resentment grows too. Crackling with sensuality and suspense, Madeline Stevens' debut novel is a dizzying thriller in which roles are confused and reversed, and nothing is ever quite as it seems. That sounds a bit gay, right? Right? I don't know. I'll read it, I'll give it a go. I did look it up on Goodreads when I got home and it had not great reviews, but you never know, I'll love it, maybe. Perhaps. Please be gay. Please be gay. I was looking for like an LGBT section. They didn't have it because there weren't really sections, so we'll see. The last 3 books I've got here, just the covers are so beautiful. Like all 3 of these, look at those covers. I am such a slut for a good colourful cover. This first one is The Incendiaries by R.O. Kwon. This is kind of about North Korea from what I can gather, and I'm so excited to read this one. It's about 2 people who meet in their first month at prestigious Edwards University. Phoebe is a glamorous girl who doesn't tell anyone that she blames herself for her mother's recent death. Will is a misfit scholarship boy, blah 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 blah. Grieving and guilt-ridden, Phoebe is drawn into a secretive cult tied to North Korea. When the group commits violent acts in the name of faith, Will finds himself struggling to confront a new version of the fantasism he's worked so hard to escape. It sounds intriguing. I did have somebody message me on Instagram saying they didn't like this, so I'm kind of like, Now I'm like in my head thinking I'm not going to like it. But again, it's very short, it should be quite a quick read, and I'm intrigued by the premise, I'm really intrigued by it. Again, look at this cover. Look at it, I'm obsessed with this. This is Red at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson. This is the story of a teenage pregnancy which kind of brings two families together from different cultures. I'm pretty sure the main protagonist in this story is a young black girl, and it says, unfurling the history of Melody's family from the 1921 Tulsa race massacre to post 9/11 New York, Red at the Bone explores sexual desire, identity, class, and the life-altering facts of parenthood. I am so intrigued by this. It says it was longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2020, so it must be good. I love this here. This quote from Stylist magazine will remind you why you love reading. That's what I like in a book. And the very, very last book I picked up, the box is now empty, is Fault Lines by Emily Itami. Let's put my box down on the floor. This is one of those books that has like the really thin paper and is just like floppy. Why are some books floppy and other books not? I'm not talking like paperback versus hardback. I'm talking like, why are some paperbacks not floppy? Like, that's not floppy. Why is this one floppy? What's the difference? Thinner paper? Cheaper paper? I don't know. Fascinating. I really want to set myself a goal of trying to read more fiction that's like based not in the UK or not in the USA, sort of like outside of Western culture. It's really easy to find yourself just reaching for stories that are set in your own world because that's what you know and that's what you understand, and you're going to want to read about stuff you understand. But I want to like learn about other cultures, and I want to like immerse myself in fiction from other cultures, or like set in other cultures, if that makes sense. So when I saw this, I was like, yes, this might help. This is about a Japanese housewife called Mizuki. She sort of has that sort of dream housewife life. She has a husband and 2 kids and a beautiful apartment in Tokyo, and it's everything she could ever want, but she is like deeply, deeply unhappy. Then one day she meets a man called Koyoshi, who's a successful restaurateur according to this. In him she rediscovers freedom, friendship, a voice, and the neon electric pulse of the city she's always loved. But the further she falls into their relationship, the clearer it becomes that she's living 2 lives, and in the end we can only choose one. It says it's alluring, compelling, startlingly honest, and darkly funny. So I can't wait to read this one. Why so floppy? I can't go for it. I want to know why. I'm going to Google it now. This is also like a super big book, like compared to my hand, it's like really long, but the text is also quite big, so I feel like maybe it's like bigger text for visually impaired people, which, you know, fine, makes no difference to me. Let me know if there are any books I picked up here that you absolutely love. Tell me like which one should I read first. I feel like I said about 10 times like, I'm gonna read this one first, I'm gonna read this one first. Maybe I need to do like a random number generator. Maybe that's the only way I'm gonna be able to decide. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you like book videos. I don't do them all the time, but I do them sometimes, so there's that. Also, I'm trying to like do more like book talk videos. Again, not like a full-time book talker, but if I see a trend I think I can do that, I've been doing it. So my TikTok is It's Georgia Marie. I'll leave a link down below. You can go follow me there if you like. Also a lot of videos, TikToks of my horses, so if you like horses, also the place to be. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.